The supporting cast of a show is what in the end will make or break it. A bad main character can be bearable, but a bad supporting cast will have the world feeling dull and empty. Poor supporting cast can also be annoying and actively drive people away from consuming the series. When pulled off successfully, the supporting cast adds complexity and really makes the world feel real. Seeing well-written interactions between the main character and other characters can really bring out the main character's personality and enhance our relationship with them. In the absence of great supporting characters, it can feel like the main character is the only thing that matters, and that everything else is pointless. A hallmark of a great show is a highly developed and interesting supporting cast that enhances the viewer's experience, and in every way, shape, and form, One Punch Man meets that criteria. Saitama, the main character of One Punch Man, is just a normal guy who becomes extremely overpowered after doing his workout routine of 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day. The greatest part about Saitama is that he's an innately flawed character, as he's written by one to represent what would actually happen if an author made the mistake of making a main character too strong. To make his intentions and how he writes Saitama crystal clear, one turns the burners to max right from the start of the series, and insinuates that Saitama is one of the strongest, if not the strongest being in his universe. By including such a huge character flaw within the main character of the series, one is essentially writing the story handicapped. However, one finds a genius solution to his problem, solving it by making Saitama struggle with the boredom of winning all of his fights, as well as developing many great side characters that will interact with Saitama in interesting ways. In One Punch Man, some of the best moments are when the supporting cast realizes how strong Saitama really is and how they end up reacting. Additionally, the series does perfectly fine when Saitama isn't present, as the supporting cast can more than stand on their own. In fact, a lot of great moments and fights happen when Saitama isn't there, as we get much needed suspense when seeing characters struggle and even potentially lose their lives in battle. One Punch Man is a rare example of a series where if the main character wasn't there, it would still work perfectly fine. Genos is 19 years old as well as a cyborg and disciple of Saitama, and as the deuteragonist of One Punch Man, he has a very important role to fill in the story. One of Genos' key character traits is that he is almost always extremely serious, which sometimes makes him feel like the antithesis of Saitama. This creates an interesting dynamic between them, as Genos slowly learns to not be so uptight all the time. In many ways, Genos is also the perfect student for Saitama, as he reveres him and uses him as a blueprint to get stronger, but also isn't afraid to express his annoyance with Saitama on occasion. In his role as a deuteragonist, Genos is a very unique character and something I've never seen before in shonen. Because of how Saitama is written, one couldn't give him the standard shonen main character treatment, so we decided to give it to Genos instead. Genos has the hallmark brutal backstory and longs for revenge against the cyborg who killed his family. He also starts off strong, but still too weak to truly make a difference, until he meets the insanely strong mentor character in Saitama. As we get deeper and deeper into the series, Genos fights more and more enemies, becoming stronger the more he fights. In this way, he's the best supporting character possible for Saitama, as regular shonen fans will still get the experience they are used to while watching him grow and develop. Besides Saitama, Genos is without a doubt the most important character in the success of the series, and he also has some of the most beautiful fights as well. Another important member of the One Punch Man supporting cast is Fubuki, also known by her hero alias Blizzard of Hell. She's an Esper, as well as the younger sister of Tatsumaki and the leader of the Blizzard Group, a B-class hero faction. Throughout the series, Fubuki constantly tries to recruit Saitama into her group, and after realizing that she'll never succeed, she becomes a self-declared member of the Saitama group. Becoming somewhat of a friend to Saitama in his group, she's one of the only characters that knows his true strength, and seeing her discover how strong he is added a lot to my enjoyment of the series. My favorite interaction between her and the Saitama group is when she comes over to Saitama's apartment trying to convince him to join her group, and King suddenly comes in asking about his video game, shocking Fubuki. Moving on to her relationship with her sister, Fubuki has an extreme inferiority complex towards her number 2 ranked sister, causing a huge strain between them. This conflict with herself and Tatsumaki adds a lot of depth to her character and causes the disconnect between her cool and confident outward appearance and her fragile, unstable inner self. One of the main ways she copes with her inferiority is by gathering large amounts of underlings into the Blizzard group, believing that she can become more powerful than her sister with numbers. She is one of the biggest proponents of newbie crushing in the series, and she ruthlessly deals with anyone who would try to surpass her in B-class. While a bit excessive and violent at times, in many ways Fubuki seems like a representation of us in the story. Out of any of the characters in One Punch Man, Fubuki is probably the most emotionally human and flawed. I bet that if we were mid-level heroes trying to find our way, we would probably develop some sort of inferiority complex and might act in a similar way to her. For this reason, Fubuki adds a great amount of depth to the series and is one of the most underrated characters. In my humble opinion, one of the best characters in the series is King. King is the rank 7 professional hero of the Hero Association, known as the strongest man on Earth and the hero's hero. In truth, however, he's just a normal civilian who unintentionally gained credit for heroic acts performed by Saitama. In a series already entirely based around a gag character, one made the interesting decision to add another gag character to accompany him. King is just a normal guy that gets recognition and credit for achievements that aren't his, while Saitama is a far from normal guy that doesn't get any recognition for his achievements at all. This dynamic of opposites is hilarious, as you see the different problems King experiences and how in contrast Saitama is perfectly fine with not being in the spotlight. Although King loves his fame and the things he gets with it, he sometimes wishes he wasn't seen as so strong, as he is constantly put under pressure to perform. Luckily for King, no matter what situation he gets put into, the other characters in the series give him credit for any positive outcomes, even if he didn't do anything at all. From talking his way out of any scenario or scaring enemies to the point of literally dying, King gets away with so many things in the craziest ways. All of this craziness meshes extremely well with the tone of the series and helps to keep things not so serious. The interactions between King and Saitama are also surprisingly positive and wholesome, especially when Saitama finds out that King has been unintentionally stealing his achievements. In a way, King is an exact representation about how everyone would look at and treat Saitama if they truly knew how strong he was. King's addition to the series is surprisingly thought-provoking and definitely reinforces the quality of the story. Combined, Genos, Fubuki, and King satisfy the desires of any audience and add an extreme amount of depth to the series. Genos provides a standard shonen MC vibe while having some of the best fights. Fubuki is very relatable and human while also fulfilling the need for a strong and beautiful female character. And King is surprisingly thought-provoking and helps to maintain the comedic tone of the series. Even without considering the masterpieces that are Garo and Bang, who I weren't able to talk about in this video, the importance of side characters becomes evident. In the absence of their support, Saitama and the whole One Punch Man series would struggle greatly. As a whole, the product of One Punch Man hinges on its supporting cast, and they do not disappoint.